Peace, peace. Yeah, I wanted to get on here and get straight to the muster here. I wanted to talk about something that it's kind of been building up over time, and it's about time to just get this transmission out. And I wanted to talk about the external, right? A lot of things that are happening right now are a direct reaction off of something that was directly experienced. And being as we have entered the second quarter of this year by the majority of the standard of how you go about the calendar. Yeah, that ain't it. So I'm gonna help y'all out real quick. I'm gonna give you a couple ideas, pointers, and things that I've learned over time, the things that I'm still learning, and some things that we can implement together as a collective here. Just because it'll make everybody's life better, not easier, but better, if the discipline can be seen, laid, and executed in the way that it needs to be. So I have some notes here. I'm going to read off first of which is I wanted to lay the point that a lot of people notice that time is speeding up for a lot of us. Time has certainly been speeding up, and that's just because of a lot of different factors. Of course, science has proven that there are shorter hours in the day, right? And aside from that, I'm going to present to you an accountability piece. Time is speeding up for you because of the fact that you lost the grip on the day, or you have too much of a grip on the day. Like there is no allowance of fluidity, there is no grounding of activity throughout the day. So when you look up, it's time to go to bed and time to start the next day, you know, and the discipline behind that is a few different things that we'll get into. And there are a lot of people that will say on record and say time does not exist, which is true in one perspective and false in another perspective. It's true and false at the same time. It's a paradox, if you will. And and for the sake of this conversation, it's not that time does not exist, but you can get to a level that time is a non-factor because you can leverage it. You can move through it in a way that you've leveraged it to work for you, and you'll be able to use it like a knob, almost like a volume knob type of thing. But people can still acknowledge time being in effect at any given point, because for someone who does not think time doesn't exist, so people who just acknowledge time for what it is, they can still see it in effect. But you have mastered it in a way that if time is going too fast, you can pull it back and utilize a lot of your moments and fulfill a lot of your right now moments, right? And a lot of that comes with just discipline. Discipline, just putting it in a broad sense, discipline will slow down time for you. How many of you been on a fast or had something like a workout, or had something that they didn't want to do but they did it anyway, and it seemed like it was taking too long, right? That's what I mean. And so since I mentioned fast, one thing that does work is fasting. I know that we have certain situations where you might be, medications and things of that nature, but there is a type of we all fast at night. So, you know, we can implement the fast in some point of through our day that we can slow down time. I've done it. I participated in Ramadan this year, and I added a little bit of razzle dazzle to it by doing only a water fast for the last 3 days. And I saw time move in every which way possible. There's times where time sped up for me. There's times where, time just kind of moved along steady. There was times where time could not move, which was odd to me, but it allowed me to see what time really is. Time is just one perception of how we can how do I put it? Time is just a perspective of reality, really. It's We're placed in a moment, and in this moment, how conscious are we in that moment that we can just get something done, right? Or how conscious are we in that moment to just sit and be still and ground ourselves and dial back and calm our mind down, right? And so that's what time does. And another way is doing something that you enjoy. That's another way you can manipulate time. They say time flies when you're having fun, which is absolutely true. The science behind that is when you're doing something that you truly, truly enjoy, you lose your sense of time, because time is only a sense. It's a perspective of a moment. So when you lose that, you lose a grip of it. And so when you do something, when you're operating in a place of passion, and when you're operating in a place of having fun, like a child has no perception of time whatsoever. So they can play for hours, and it can feel like 20 minutes for them. I know that we've all experienced that at some point. And so if you need time to kind of hurry along, do something that you enjoy. But there's a balance in there. There's a balance that we can achieve to make sure that we're maximizing our time. But the problem is we move off the external, because when we move off of the external, a lot of times we go on autopilot, and that's not being intentional. All we do with manipulating time is the degree of intentionality with the moment. And it's hard because we move off the external. We depend on our external experiences to give us what we need, when it should be the opposite. We should be giving ourselves what we need so that our external can reflect the thing that we had in mind to begin with. And that is furthest away from what happens the majority of the time. But why? The human body is one hell of a drug. It really is. That's because of emotion. The feeling that's associated with experience. That's what makes it hard for us to separate our experiences and the things that we need to do to drive or steer our experiences a certain way. And I have another note here that says, we rely on experience to make us feel good, and with uh, that goes with emotion, right? So if whatever we experience don't make us feel good, we imagine the the rigmarole that we put ourselves in, right? I don't know why I use that term, but anyway, you get it. We have this downward spiral of things that's going wrong, and we blow it all up, and we blow it all out of proportion, and we kind of we dwell on these things instead of enter problem solving mode. And it's hard to, once we enter that downward spiral, it's hard for us to climb back up. And that's how we got swindled. Just as an example, the darkest demons are the biggest indicators of glamour in Hollywood. And we never learn to look past the superficial perspective of beauty. Beauty is everything that is interconnected to this created to create this web of life. And this just means that we were taught that beauty is external. But beauty is everything. Beauty is the way that a spider creates a web and how it captures its food. And a lot of people are afraid of have arachnophobia or whatever, and are afraid of that mental picture. But that's beauty, because there's a beautiful dance with the cycle of life and death that happens there, that makes up nature. On the flip side, let's look at humans, right? I don't even have to say it, but the artificial beautification of ourselves, it happens all the time. A lot of people don't want to put in the work because it's just easier to artificially beautify ourselves, when the actual beauty is in the journey of making ourselves the healthiest version of ourselves that we could be. And for me, it's, strength and conditioning. So needless to say, since I've been on my health journey, I lost a lot of weight, and I wasn't able to sustain at a particular time in my life. I wasn't able to sustain my attendance in the gym. So that goes without saying that I lost a lot of weight, and that's going to happen. And I knew that I was capable of looking a certain way if I stuck with going to the gym. But many people, they can't get over that, that 1 or 2, 3 day hump where it just completely sucks to go into the gym. That's just because that's one of the things that it's just gonna take to stay in the gym. But it's the material acquisition of our outer world that messes up the inner balance that we're supposed to have. The pendulum swings too far on one side, and we forget the self-care that it takes to create the reality that we essentially want. You're a spiritual being, yet you can be so drugged out by the darkness of material conditions that you lose sight of your inherent spirituality. And in doing so, you lose the knowledge of your true nature and spiritual secrets of your individual being. And that's exactly what I just said. And that's just kind of condensing it in one statement, is that there is there is something that you maintain within yourself, that when you maintain this, your outer world will mirror what's inside. Because Self is the measuring stick of the world around you anyway. Your project when the ideas and your perspectives that you project out is just a reflection of what you think about yourself, or the ideas and perspectives of yourself in some way, shape, or form. If you cannot see that, then there's some digging that you have to do, because that's 100%. That's 100%. And these transitions are not always physically demonstrable, but they occur on subtle levels in the gaps between rungs of our symbolic ladder. All we know is that change occurs, and death of something precedes every new and higher begetting. So the intrinsic value of changing your external begins internal. And then when that internal is balanced, or when you change your expectations to start internal first, change happens. Then the death of the old ways of looking at things, they start. That's what that's saying. But you have to experience the darkness first. And that starts with learning to accept what may seem like misfortune without complaining. Let me say that again. Let me talk in this mic. Let me talk in this mic. Learn to accept what seems like misfortune without complaining. Let me get up close and personal with you real quick. Hold on. Let me get this mic. Hold on. Let me get this mic right here. Can you see me? Accept what seems like misfortune. Accept what seems like misfortune without complaining. Trav, what that mean? I'm glad you asked. Let's break it down. Listen. When you can reframe what seems like misfortune and leverage that to be something that you can learn to make the same situation better in the future, that wasn't misfortune. That's called having your actions on a ledger. And for your accounting and finance majors, you know what a ledger is. But what a ledger is nothing more than just checks and balances. You have debits and credits. You have assets and liabilities. There's something input, and the output must be accounted for on each side. Your actions are on a ledger. When you understand that, there is no such thing as misfortune. For every cause, there's an effect. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. That's universal law. You can't escape that. So misfortune is an out for you to have an excuse to not take accountability for. Let me say that again. Let's run that back. Misfortune is just an out for you to have an excuse to not take accountability for. There are dues that you have to pay for credit. You got to pay them dues. And the best way for you to pay your dues in full is to learn from the lesson that you got out of this moment, out of this experience, out of this circumstance. That's the best way to pay for that credit, because you got credited that experience by environment, actions, decisions, perspectives, reactions, a whole combination of things that happen for you to be here right now. Ask yourself, how did I get here right now? What actions, perspectives, what reactions got you here right in this moment? There was an action that placed you here right now. If you are not accountable for this right now moment, then you wouldn't be in this moment. Everything that is present in your life is a result of some type of action, decision, some type of motion that put you here. So give credit where credit is due, and then pay that debt. Bars. So whatever occurs to you, joy, happiness, pain, misfortune, is a reward due to you, or a debt due from you. Whatever occurs to you, whether it be joy, happiness, pain, or misfortune, is a reward due to you, or a debt due from you. Let's let that breathe for a minute. So I did a lot of preaching, but how can we fix this? How are we going to fix this? I'm going to give you a absolute gem that I found to be true. And this is the part that I'm working on right now. And we're going to do this together. Clean your house. Clean your house. What does that mean, Trav? I'm glad you asked. Clean your house up. The way in that your current living situation is organized is a direct reflection of your mental activity. If you're like me and you enjoy organized chaos, that's because you're used to organized chaos in the mind. Especially having something like I got is ADHD brain, organized chaos. Something's always going on. So in my space, there's always something going on. And I'm actively working to change that, because once you change your living space, you automatically change your mental space. It's a direct correlation. I guarantee you. If you can walk in somebody's house now, you can tell how their mind works by how their living space looks, by what their living space looks like. If they're OCD about everything, that means that that's how their mind works, and they need to control, and they need to put everything in its designated space. And if a lot of these people don't have room for adventure, so if this is you and you need some adventure in your life, find some balance. If you're super OCD about stuff, Start change the color scheme of your house, because that's gonna signal your brain that you want some change, and you will open your mind up to adventure. Like, what colors go with this room, or do I want to completely change the paint of my room so to fit a color scheme that I'm thinking about. If you want to change your mind space, start with your living space. And you will get the direct correlation of what I said in the beginning of the inside, starting with the inside and then changing your outside, because it all starts with the vision of having a clean home. And it starts with being okay with your home space being what it is, looking at it and be like, this is what I get. This is exactly, it makes sense. It's not excusing it, but you understand that the reason why you're living like this, the reason why you're living in this moment, it makes sense. That's what it means to accept your perceived misfortune without complaining. You just acknowledge that it makes sense. And one more thing about this, and we're going to move on to the next point. You want to know why you feel stagnant? It's because you're not solving problems. And this directly ties to what I said before about focusing on the internal, and then it'll change your external. You're not solving problems, because when you solve problems in each experience, you move up a spiral. And that spiral is the new experiences that you have in the leveling up of life. It's not levels like this. It doesn't go like this. This is what corporate America try to makes it seem like leveling up looks like. This is what education makes it, the institutions of education makes you think that leveling up, grades. I'm in the first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. No, it's spirals. You move in spirals, because what happens is, aside from knowledge being 360 degrees, and I'm going to save that for a different conversation, but you move in spirals because you integrate previous experiences, and those integrations of previous experiences move you up. But if you don't integrate those previous experiences, then depending on the situation, it could be to your detriment. And when these situations are to your detriment, you can move down the spiral, because E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light. So that just means where attention goes, energy flows. So if you don't move up the spiral, what happens on the opposite end? If you get obstacles, roadblocks, and things of that nature, and you're not learning from these experiences, you're not learning from the obstacles, you're not getting stronger, you're not putting the work in, you're not exercising your willpower, if you're not exercising your desire to move up the spiral, then depression hits, confusion happens. And anything negative thrives in confusion because it separates perceived reality and your perceived power. It seems like you don't have power over anything. And it seems that your reality is destined to go in the, down. And that's not the only things, it's different scenarios for different people, but that's essentially what could happen. In any given time, you're either moving up the spiral or down the spiral too. Because your experiences is just thought in motion. Your actions are thought in motion. So you're always in motion. And when you are moving down the spiral and you feel like you're stuck and you feel like you don't know you feel like you don't feel like you don't have a grip on it, and you get lost, kind of. That's the word I'm trying to say. You feel like you get lost. Ask yourself 2 questions. And I wrote it down here. Ask yourself, what am I not allowing? Because what happens when you're moving up or down the spiral in each moment, when it comes to accepting new information, you have to be first of all, you have to be open to new information. But when you have a negative, something that's perceived as negative, a negative experience, there was something that you didn't allow. So question number 1, what am I not allowing? Question number 2, what can I learn from this? Question number 1, what am I not allowing? Question number 2, what can I learn from this? And these 2 questions, integrated with solutions, take you back up the spiral, but it requires motion. And it goes right into what I said earlier about being in motion. You always have to be in motion. You're always in motion. But in this sense, the motion that this requires is the action based off of answering these 2 questions. It's super specific. You're being super intentional with it. That's the only way you can move up the spiral. You have to be in motion with the answers to these questions. And you have to be super honest. You have to be honest with yourself, because it's not going to work if you give yourself an excuse, or not excuse. I stopped using that word. Sorry. And my apologies for using that word earlier. My word is defending mediocrity. If you defended your own mediocrity in answering these questions, then you will not move up the spiral. You will stay stagnant, and you will further move down the spiral, because those thoughts, those dark thoughts, will start seeping in. It never fails. Nobody's ever just okay with not doing well. Nobody's just okay with not having, or feeling like they don't have, and always feeling like they don't have something, especially when they're in the presence of somebody who does have it, and especially if that person does have what they want. So let me give you an example that I wrote down. about moving up and down the spiral, something that I've experienced personally. And I see now, and I'm glad that I took a bit of time off the gym, because it gave me a new lens of working out, because I've been working out all of my young life and all of my adult life up until like 2 or 3 years ago. I was working out, and I took a hard stop, and then starting up back again felt like I've never worked out a day in my life. And I'm thankful for that experience, because it allowed me to give a different perspective on all of that. So people who don't work out, haven't worked out, and they work out for the first time, and it seems like those results ain't coming. But the process is not linear. It's not straight in a line. It's not this. It's a spiral. It's energy equals mass times the speed of light. So the more energy you put into the gym, the more energy you put into going, the more energy you put into mastering the exercises. So you start to learn the light is information. So the more information you put into the gym, which you put already in energy into, you see the mass starts to shape shift, which is you get to witness the results. But you will not see the results just by doing the bare minimum and getting on that scale, looking in the mirror every single day and expecting the massive result. You move up in the degree of rigor, which is the speed of light and the energy that you put in. But it's correlated in the way that your body, the mass, going into the gym, and you move up in a degree of rigor, the more energy you will have to go back. The more shape you will be in, the more excited you will be to get to those results. You move up in the degree of rigor with difficulty and weight. So that's your area of focus. Instead of being on the mirror and on the weight scale, your area of focus should be the difficulty of the exercise and the weight. So as long as you have it just difficult enough, not to where you injure yourself, but just enough to where you feel it. You feel the burn, you shaking a little bit, you just barely could get it back up on the rack, or barely could just get that last rep in. That's where the results start. That's where the results are. When you're running on a treadmill, the degree of rigor you on a treadmill for. So if you're walking on a treadmill, bump that speed up 2. You get that brisk walk in, right? Or if you're jogging, try to sprint for 2 minutes. Try to sprint for as long as possible. And then the results will start following. You will start to feel different. And then your reality will start to be viewed different. When you focus on that and fine tune, you will travel through the degrees of that spiral. And so the last point is separation. So another means of your external being a certain way is separation. You don't see how connected you are to everything else. because everything is happening at the same time. We oh, my camera is freaking out there. Anyway, we learned about throughout our lives about hyper individuality. We were taught to be hyper individual to the point where if you haven't experienced a situation, then it doesn't exist. How many of us seen a Facebook or a social media post where somebody says something and you seen somebody else just completely shoot it down because they said it don't exist or that they're wrong about something that they've experienced? And 9 times out of 10, you think you know that this person haven't experienced this. And they're saying that this person is just making excuses, and this person, you know how I go. The social media warriors, and they're just hyper individual people who have fallen in the social media abyss, thinking that their social media page is just a way for them to express their individuality, where it's not like that. It's social networking. A network connects you to other people. So while you do have a degree of individuality, but that individuality fits in the interconnectivity of everything else that's spinning around here. That's why social media thrives off arguing. You get the social media gets the best engagement out of people being negative and arguing because of this sense of hyper individuality. You have so many people engaging and disagreeing, and then the people who agree are the people who or the people who disagree, people who agree, and there are people who take sides, and the people who bash others who try and get them to rise above it all. Which side? Which one of those are you? The people who disagree all the time, they find something to disagree on. People who agree with whatever, and the people who take sides on whatever argument, which is, people agreeing and disagreeing as well. But it's people who only disagree. They get on social media to disagree. And then people who get on social media to agree with whatever ideology, that they follow, right? And there are people that find sides to take. And then the people who bash others, who try to get them to rise above it all, they be like, man, shut up, man. You always trying to be all deep. Man, it's always deeper than that. It's deeper than rap, it's deeper than that. We got to a point where we cannot validate another person's experience because that's their individual experience, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. But it does have everything to do with you because you're connected to that person, whether you know it or not. There's a reason why that's in your algorithm. That's another build we're gonna have to do. Let me write that down, because you have to understand your personal algorithm. But just know your social media timeline, it's not like it used to be where it shows you everything. That algorithm's there for a reason. And tune in to the next one. I'm going to name the next one algorithm, just so the people who tapped in this far in the message, you'll know that the next one going to be our algorithm, and we're going to break that down. It's going to be short, because it's not that hard to grasp, and it's not that hard of a concept to grasp. But just know you are one thought or decision away from being in somebody else's timeline. There's a reason why you see people's posts. There's a reason why you encounter certain people throughout the day. There's a reason why experiences happen. That's because you're connected with the people around you. You're connected in this world in a deep way that you come up to these encounters. Like it's almost like a simulation. That's why simulation theory is such a substantial argument. Like the simulation theory people who argue simulation theory, they sound like conspiracy theorists, but it's like a GTA game because you make certain decisions and you get certain responses that come at you from the external, and then you respond to the responses. It's just like when you go up to somebody random in GTA and you make, you have an encounter and you engage in dialogue, and based off that dialogue, you make a certain decision based off of that, and then it goes around, and then the people you encounter do the same thing, and then sometimes you come back around to the same encounter just based off of the intention set and the plans that you have and other factors. But just know that the energy you put into your encounter, it doesn't go away. It transfers from person to person to person. And the way you respond to those situations is a projection of reality in that moment. So that means that when you have an encounter, let's say if somebody went up to you and said something you didn't like, and I'm gonna close here. Somebody, you encounter somebody and they said something you didn't like. The way you respond to them is a projection of your reality in that moment. You don't have to match that energy. You really don't. You really don't. Because what's going to happen is you're going to lead yourself to be in a compromising position, or at the very least, you're going to be mad about what just happened, and then you're going to project that anger out on somebody else. The next person is going to happen, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's only transferred. So you have to watch that. So you have to be conscious enough in that right now moment to just like when I said in the very beginning, and I'm closing right now, just like I said in the very beginning, where you have to be conscious of steering your reality or manipulating the way that you see things, and you have to do it in a way that you keep yourself in check. You have to be conscious of self. So if somebody says something you don't like in this moment, all you got to do is ask a question. That disarms people, because it causes them to think. Because a lot of people don't think in survival mode, that fight or flight moment. There's not a whole lot of thinking going on. So if you slow down, and if first you think, and then you challenge or you spark thought in the other person, it calms the whole room down. And then it shifts the energy in the room. And then that automatically changes your reality to something more ideal for you. And it changes their perspective as well. And it ends the situation. The situation ends in a better way that it could have gone. And more than likely that person that you encounter will say that, or you will feel it. Sometimes it can be said without being said. Sometimes it's just a feeling. Sometimes you see them shoulders drop. Somebody be so tense and you see their demeanor change. But you'll be able to see that. But it takes a lot of practice and discipline. So play this back as many times as you need, because these are key points. And the thing that I do ask of every time I get on here and build is, please come with me with some questions. Come at me with some questions so I can answer them, because I do want to have Q&A sessions so this can be an interactive, because I don't want to be sitting up here talking all the time, although I can, but I want this to be an interactive session so that you can get more value in the interaction of you asking a question, so that you can feel like the things that you feel like may be holding you back, the obstacles, the perceived obstacles that you might see in front of you, you can get another perspective at it. Even though we just touched on a lot of things of perceived misfortune and perceived obstacles, sometimes we need, somebody just to help us through it right there in the right now moment. And I'm here for that. So with that being said, I'm done. And if you enjoyed this, please share it with somebody, or take some notes on it. Go back and share the best gem that you got out of this. Post me and share it. If you follow me on socials, or if you see me on socials, and if you got a gem out of this, put it in the comments. I want to see it. All right, I hope y'all have a good rest of your day. Make it a good rest of your day. Take accountability over it.